It formed a V, and that was painted. And then eventually they really put up a magnificent V, all poured concrete and painted white, and that was probably in the late 20s, maybe the early 30s. Magnificent V, and it's still there to this day. And it was above the high school.
I heard that Harold McAllister had something to do with that.
I'm sure he did. McAllisters were very active in this area. The McAllisters were the Phelan family. Then they moved to Victorville in the early days. So they were very active in different things, and eventually they got heavily involved with heavy equipment. And
I guess that the young McAllister, Harold Jr. is still
doing that to this day. He's still very active, and it's yeah, they was super. They went to high school in Victorville. I might mention, Robert, that our first high school was this. I mentioned Richardson had a department store, or a general store, I should say, across the tracks on East Street. Then he come across the tracks in the early, and then started a general store along D Street. Well, also on D Street, this guy was always interested in education, so he started the first high school in 1914 in the Richardson residence, and that would be between 8th and 9th Street on D. And 9th Street, of course, is Hesperia Road today. That residence is since gone, but that was this guy Richardson was a businessman for many years in Victorville, and like I say, very interested in education.
So he was one of the early pioneers in education in Victorville, then.
Yes.
And then. About Maxwell Hartness, do you know?
Maxwell J. Hartness moved to Victorville as a principal / superintendent in 1928. In those days, Robert, you had Victorville, you had Big Bear, and you had 29 Palms was in this district. The first hire that Mr. Hartness made was Keith Gunn. Keith Gunn was 24 years old. Just graduated from UC Santa Barbara. He was a math teacher, mechanical drawing teacher. He was all physical education, also the coach at all major sports in Victorville. In those days you had football, basketball, track, and swimming were the 4 major sports. He was, Mr. Hartness was born in 1894. Keith Gunn was born in 1904, and then to round out the big three, as I like, there was Clara Beckman, who was the secretary. There was Clara Phillips in those days. Clara Phillips went through the school system here in Victorville. She come to Victorville when she was 6 weeks old. Her family owned orchards out off of Bear Valley Road. She went to Apple Valley Grammar School, which is on Bear Valley and Deep Creek Road now. And let's see, I will say that in the early days prior to Max Hartness, you had 5 teachers and a principal named White, and that would be in 1915, 16, 17. They started at the Richardson House, moved up to the high school. They had 5 teachers and a principal, and one of the teachers was Imogene Gardner Hook. And Imogene Gardner Hook has a Hook Junior High named after her. After she retired from teaching, she was a school board member for many years in Victorville. She lived on Hesperia Road, 9th Street in those days, right next to the American Legion Hall.